Thank you for taking time to chat with us today. In 24 hours, two top figures in the Middle East have been killed. But what can you tell us about how Israel did this?
So, I mean, there is a distinct difference in the Israeli tactics in Beirut and Tehran. So Shukr was killed by a classic airstrike, massive destruction. You've seen the pictures of the apartment building essentially being destroyed. While in Tehran, it was a high-level precision strike. Now, there were lots of different versions floating around. The most credible one, in my opinion, is the one that the Iranian media put out earlier this afternoon, Iranian time, that it was a suicide quadrocopter drone, not an airstrike by an Israeli aircraft or a precision missile strike from a neighboring country, both of which would be absolutely a declaration of war against Iran. But this kind of assassination attempts with a suicide drone launched within Tehran is a different kettle of fish, lower level aggressive than an airstrike would have been or a rocket strike would have been in Tehran. So I find this version the more credible one, but the Iranians, seem to be following Russian strategy and putting out 50 different stories for the same event just to confuse everyone.
And to the question about the capabilities of, I guess, Tehran's security apparatus, it wasn't that long ago that I think at a funeral observance for Soleimani, there was another terror attack, but that one was dropped by a terror group. And so the question I guess many are wondering is, can Iran protect itself from anything, from anyone right now?
Well, I mean, this is the problem when you have highly ideologized security structures. We've seen the same in Russia. So Russia by no means is a liberal, open state. It's a police state. And yet ISKP was able to murder 133 Russians in a theater one night. Same thing for Iran. When you are, fed propaganda in which no one knows what the actual truth is, it is also challenging for the Iranian security forces to distinguish between propaganda and reality. And we've seen multiple failures. 2020, a high-ranking Al-Qaeda guy was killed in the middle of Tehran as well in a targeted assassination on Pastaran Street, one of the most elegant shopping streets in the middle of Tehran. Their chief scientist of the nuclear program, Fakhrizadeh, was killed in Iran. They abducted Pastaran members and scientists, Israelis did, inside Iran a couple of years ago. So this is really a problem. These police states are very effective at oppressing their opposition. They are pretty useless when it comes to actual threats to the regime.
Now, the fallout from this for the rest of the world, Hans, what do you see it be?
Well, this is a tricky situation. The Supreme Leader has already spoken of the duty to react because it happened in Tehran, and it happened, of course, as in the aftermath of the inauguration of the new Iranian president. So immediately there was a meeting of the Supreme National Security Council, the decision maker in the regime on all of these more strategic security questions. That council includes the leader, two of representatives, the president, the Minister of Interior, Defense and Intelligence, as well as the chiefs of staff of the army, the regular military, and the Pastaran, as well as the commander of the Pastaran Quds force, the force that actually manages all the proxy network. So this is the decision circle who is now contemplating what the response is going to be. Now, I would assume, given the embarrassment that the large-scale drone and missile attack on Israel in April really, in the end, was for the Iranian regime, one rocket hitting the edge of one airbase in the Israeli Negev desert out of hundreds that were fired, right? And on top of that, most of those rockets shot down by Arab forces defending Israel. So, I mean, propaganda-wise, this really was a backlash. And even the most ardent proponents of the regime in Tehran had real problems demonstrating that this was a success of some kind. So I hope that's not going to be the option they're going to choose. But Iran has a long, sad, brutal history of either conducting or sponsoring terror attacks, including terror attacks against Israelis outside the region. including in Romania and Burgas, including 30 years ago. It was just the commemoration a couple of days ago in Argentina against the Jewish Center, assassinations of Iranian opposition politicians here in Berlin, where I'm right now, in 1992, in the attack against the Mykonos restaurant. So this kind of international terrorism, unfortunately, is some option that seems, in my opinion, a quite likely option as a response, but it will take time. They cannot pull this off in a day or two. If they do pull something off in a day or two, it is going to be a token response rather than an actual response. That would be the best case scenario.
That was going to be my next question. You have said this, and we've both said this thing several times over the course of knowing each other over a long time, is that one of the things that these terror groups always say is that you in the West have the watches, but we've got the time. Do you think that not applies, maybe doesn't apply here?
Look, I mean, in April, when an Iranian embassy was attacked in Damascus, the Iranians wanted to respond. They wanted to respond publicly, but they wanted to minimize the damage. Now, I think from their perspective, they erred too much on the side of caution by sending slow-flying drones who all got shot down, and only a handful of really interballistic missiles, one of which actually went through, didn't hit anything significant. So the quick response in April that we saw was clearly simply a token response because sovereign Iranian installations were attacked. Now here we are in a little bit of a hybrid situation. Yes, it was an attack in Iran, but it wasn't targeting any Iranians. It was targeting the head of a terror organization under Iranian protection, mind you, but a Palestinian, not an Iranian official. So I don't think they are going to bother with their arsenal again, depleting it even further, risking another embarrassment. But taking your time and responding with terror attacks is something that the Iranians have done in the past, also denying responsibility the way that Israel will never comment about what happened to Haniyeh in Tehran, very differently to what happened to Shukr in Beirut, where clearly the open admission of Israel clearly indicates that they, in my opinion, correctly assume the Lebanese government is unfortunately now only a sideshow in the country. It really is Hezbollah that they're dealing with. And, embarrassing the Lebanese government by attacking someone in Beirut is long a problem that they're no longer feeling embarrassed about.
All right, Hans Jakob-Schindler, Senior Director at the Counter Extremism Project. Thank you as always, Hans, for your insight and expertise.
Thank you so much for having me.